this is everything that you're going to need, and we'll have a list link in the website portal to everything that you can purchase before you receive your SCOBY. And then what we're going to do is we're basically going to brew today. So we've got our tea, we've got our sugar, we've got our litmus paper, which is very important for health reasons, which we'll explain later. We've got our strip that will stick straight onto our brewing vessel. We've got a pen and a notepad, which we're going to just write down notes of some of the more specific things. Some scissors to cut your baggies open. We've got our jar for steeping the green tea and some cool water to chill that down a little bit, because you don't want to steep your tea at a boiling temperature. We've got a hydrometer. That's going to help for some of you that are a little bit more intolerable to alcohol. We can actually control the alcohol by using specific control points, so you don't get any alcohol excess, and make that so that it's not kid friendly, or if people have certain allergies or aren't looking for any alcohol, or as minimal alcohol as you can. Alrighty, so here we go with brewing the tea. Lauren, if you can help, that'd be awesome. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take our jar, and we're going to take a liter jug, and we're going to fill that jug just to about 900 or so mils of water, hot water that is. And basically we may be tipping out a little bit as we go, just to make sure that we've got a really good temperature mark for the tea. The tea, the reason why we use sencha green tea, sencha basically means uncooked tea. So the reason why we use uncooked tea is so that it's got all of the antioxidants and all of those really good vitamins, minerals, and everything in the tea that actually feeds the SCOBY. So when we at the brewery actually work with SCOBY, go ahead and put that in there, we have a chef do the cooking every day. And funny enough, when he started his job, he decided that he wanted to ask the question, well, who am I cooking for? And I said, well, you're cooking for your babies, your SCOBY. Every single day we do little feeds, and we have big giant SCOBY that basically span across about 1 meter by meter. In this one, we're just going to have a SCOBY that's going to round the top of this jar, and we'll explain a little bit more how we move into the actual harvesting period and what we need to look at when we're doing that. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add the tea. But what we're going to do first is we're going to clear it up. This is a thermometer. This one's a infrared thermometer, and that's actually perfect. If you can see, 79.6 degrees. So that's wonderful. We don't have to add any water or dump out any water. So what we can do is we can take those scissors, just cut the green tea bit, and put that right in there. So the reason why we steep this at 80 degrees is, again, so we're not extracting too much tannin or from the actual tea itself, that sort of earthiness and things that might actually end up being a little bit more bitter in the product itself. So what we want to do is we essentially just want to steep the tea very softly, extract not the flavor but more of all those antioxidants, the vitamins, things that the SCOBY is actually going to eat and thrive on. Once this tea steeps, we're going to go ahead and take a pH of that, and we're going to make sure that this is a perfect pH to add the SCOBY to. pH is very important, because if you have a SCOBY that fluctuates above pH 4.6 up to 5, you can actually risk getting a black fungus, black mold, and even botulism. So having these litmus paper strips is absolutely essential. So everything we do through stages, we actually test the pH as we go, and make sure everything is perfect so that we've got a thriving environment for that SCOBY to live in. So we've got our tea brewing. The tea is going to brew for approximately 10-ish minutes until you've got a really nice dark color, and it smells of green tea. That's always quite nice. So we'll go ahead and move this out of the way, just like that. And what we're going to do is we're now going to cut open our SCOBY. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to give a slight spray of our vinegar. And so white vinegar actually is the same pH as our SCOBY, SCOBY vinegar, or our kombucha vinegar. And so what that does is that actually just kills any sort of bacteria that might be on the jar from the dishwasher or anything, and it just sort of prepares again that environment for the SCOBY. Nice work not spelling it.
It was difficult.
Great. So now what we're going to do is the first thing is we're going to take one of these pieces of litmus paper. We're going to just rip one of these off make sure your hands are nice and dry when you do this, because it will automatically start to pick up the pH of anything wet on your fingers. So inside here you'll see a little color scheme. So I'm actually colorblind, so you're going to have to look at this. So what we're going to do is dip it in there, and after about 30 seconds it's going to come up and start changing colors. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that this particular kombucha vinegar with the SCOBY is about 2 to 3 pH. That's quite acidic. Cool. So let's just see how we're going there.
That's right around 3.
That's right around 3. Cool. So maybe in about 10 minutes or 5 minutes, it should change color a little bit more, but also they work pretty quickly. So we need to make sure that it's at least under 3. Okay? Alright, so at this stage you could even spray off your hands and play with the SCOBY if you want to. So again, if you just sort of drape it up and show them. So this is a SCOBY, so it's a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. Essentially when we put it into our jar, it's going to grow a yeast on the bottom, and the whole silicate itself is actually full of bacteria. What the fermentation cycle is going to be is we're going to add a little bit of sugar to our tea mixture. The yeast is going to actually eat that sugar and make just a little bit of ethanol. Ethanol is actually really good for our fermentation cycle, because the ethanol is then going to be eaten by the beneficial bacteria in the SCOBY, and it's going to turn into acetic acid and acetobacter and different good probiotic yumminess, and it's actually going to eat that alcohol, so the alcohol actually reduces. So the SCOBY is quite a magical little beast. So now that we know that the SCOBY is safe and that you've got a pH of around 2 or 3 pH, we're just going to sit that in there and get it ready to add to our jar and into our tea. Alright guys, so I mean look, hey, the tea is I think ready. I'm just going to do just quick. There we go. Yeah, so tea's ready, 71 degrees, it's dropped 10 degrees. But look, the tea's tasting amazing. I sort of dipped the spoon in there. The tea is really important as far as the ratio. So what we like to do at Kombucha Bros is we like to actually have a little bit more tea and a little bit less sugar. So the sugar, again, is only to set up the ethanol base, which then the bacteria eats and creates all of your probiotics, so your acetobacters and your acidities and everything like that. So what we've done is we've actually done a ratio to a liter of water, which is going to then mix with our kombucha starter, which you would have noticed there was a bit of kombucha vinegar inside the packet there. So that's very important that you use a starter with your kombucha SCOBY. You can start out a starter by using white vinegar. I would probably not use any sort of naturally fermented apple cider vinegars or something like that, because they actually have their own mother, which can actually affect and almost sort of compete against the SCOBY, which are two different things. So what we've done is we've done 5 grams of sugar. It's actually more about 4 grams of sugar, and then 5 grams of green tea. So equal parts thereabout. Again, if you're worried about the alcohol at all, then you can use the hydrometer, and you can then balance those ratios to bring down the sugar. The less sugar that's in there, the less amount of alcohol there's going to be. With a fermented product, there's going to be alcohol, ginger beer, soy sauce, anything. So yeah, it's a natural process, and just if we want to control it, we'll show you how to do that. So if you can actually take the white vinegar and go ahead and sanitize that jar for me. So it's really important just to get all the products that are actually going to be sitting there with the SCOBY nice and sanitized with the vinegar. And so what I like to do is, because it's going to actually sit in this vessel for quite a long time, is we just give it a nice good coating, and then we swirl it around, get it up into the top nooks there, you know, so it's just really nice and coated with that vinegar. Any sort of yuckies or you know, things you can't see, bacteria or anything like that that we don't want in there will just be killed pretty instantaneously. And yeah, that's it. So what we'll do is, if you want to give another squiz on your hands of the vinegar, and go ahead and grab that SCOBY and drop it straight in there. Perfect. And she definitely dropped it. So eventually what we'll do is when we put the tea and the water in there, it'll start to float. hopefully. And then we can sort of spread it across. And we'll explain a little bit more why having it spread across the top is going to be important. Great, so now what we're going to do is we're going to cut open our sugar. Okay. So I like to add the sugar straight in with the green tea before we sieve out the green tea. And the reason is any residual little granules that don't get blended into the water or perfect. So that don't actually, sometimes when you have a bit of sugar in hot water, some of it doesn't always dissolve. So what I like to do is I just like to add it to it, and then when we sieve it, any of those leftover granules just don't make it into the pot, so that's cool. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're going to mix up that green tea. Nice and stirred up. Cool. And then we're going to take another pH. Okay, so if we just dip that in there. So that's going to be a lot higher because that's only tea and water. If you're going to use any black teas or any other sort of teas besides Cincha green tea, or even cooked green tea, say from a packet of green tea like you would put in a teacup at home, so cooked green teas can play with the pH or the balance of the acid that's already in that beverage. And so we need to just make sure we know exactly what that's going to be, so we know how much vinegar starter or white vinegar you're going to add into it to create that environment of under 4 pH before you add it to the SCOBY. So what are we looking at there?
That's looking like 6.
6? Cool. So 7 is neutral. 7 is neutral pH. Water from your home tap can be anywhere from 7 to 8 pH. So 6 is actually a really good starter. And you can see that that whole green tea process, just the green tea itself, actually dropped that pH by about 1 point. So with black teas and other types of teas, you're going to have a difference between 6, 5 sometimes, 5.5. If you want to actually get more precise in your pHs, you can pick up a pH meter pretty readily. At any brew store, Megamiter 10 I think has the soil pH meters, which are kind of not suited for purpose, but they're good enough. Great, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add probably half of that SCOBY water. So there's roughly about 100 to 200 mils of kombucha vinegar. We'll just add that into the green tea. There we go. And what we're doing is we're trying to achieve about 4 pH for this. So if you give it a stir, and then we'll rip off another little strip here. Now you're not going to need a lot of vinegar added to the green tea. So vinegar actually goes a long way when it comes to waters, green teas, ingredients, all of that.
Yeah, it already looks more orange.
Yeah, perfect. Right, so what are we looking?
That looks like 5.
5, perfect. Let's just add the rest of that then. So you can always start over, and all you would have to do is dump out a little bit of the concentrated solution, and you could add white vinegar. Again, distilled white vinegar is best. So if we give that a little bit of a stir, and then we'll go ahead and take another measurement. Now I just want to note that we're doing this at home, so we're not using gloves, we're not sort of cleaning up too much behind us because we're just having fun brewing, getting stuck in. At the brewery we have to be a lot more precise and make sure there's no contaminants that get in there. But in the end of the day, at the pH or the acidity level that all of these products are going to be, they're quite safe. So you can very well just reach in there with your hand. Is that about 4?
Yeah.
Perfect. Alright. So now that we've got all of that tea concentration, we've got the sugar in there, we've got everything, we've tested it, the pH is perfect at 4. I think we're ready to go ahead and put it into the SCOBY. So if you want to hold that, just so we don't get any of the actual leaves in there. So this is going to be quite hot, so you might need a bit of a hot mitt or something. I'm used to hot things in the brewery, so I'm just going to go for it. Alright, ready? 1, 2, 3. Whoa. Perfect. Okay, so you'll notice that I put that in there quite hot. okay, so you're going to see this actually go up quite high, so 26, 28, okay? And so essentially the SCOBY itself is not going to get killed with hot water, okay? If anything, it's giving that last sort of boost of heat, which will actually transfer right through into the jar, the SCOBY, warm everything up, okay? And at this stage, this is where we're actually going to just go in with our hands, and yep, and we're actually going to go in and just sort of feather out that SCOBY a little bit. Perfect. And so what we'll do is we'll actually just have a look at where we're at here. So if you can look inside there, what we'll do is we're going to essentially have that product in there until it starts to ferment. You're going to start to see a SCOBY silicate growth on the actual level of the floating bits. You'll see that a little silicate actually grows across the top of the liquid. And so that's going to create an anaerobic environment that allows for all of that yeast, all of that fermentation, all of that stuff to happen in a nice safe environment. At this stage as well, what we can do is if you're, again, if you're looking at the alcohol concentrations, do you want to lift that up and actually pour that so it shows 100 mils here? So this is what's called a hydrometer. So the way a hydrometer works is it measures the specific gravity of a liquid. So if there is sugar or other solubles in a liquid, it actually floats a little bit higher than it would if it was just pure water. So if we can actually add a little bit more of that there. So what this does is on here you'll see that it's got 1.000. So on YouTube or anything you can find out how to use these. And then basically what we want to do is we want to take our results and we want to monitor them against what's called a original gravity calculator. So on a couple of different websites you can get an original gravity calculator. For example, I use Brewer's Friend. Brewer's Friend, and so what you do is you type in the original gravity and then the final gravity. So in this instance, we've actually got just over 1.00. I'd actually say it's 1.005. And so basically that means that if you type into the calculator 1.005 means that we're going to have roughly about 0.5% alcohol. In New Zealand, under the Food Act, we brew kombucha up to 1.15. I know that sounds like a bit of alcohol, but in reality it's actually still considered a non-alcoholic product at 1.15, so it's safe to drink just like a soy sauce or a traditionally fermented ginger beer. So now that we've tested our gravity, we can actually just dump that straight back in there. And this is a happy little kombucha. So what I'd like to do is just say that what we're going to do is just put this thing to sleep. So we always keep a cloth on there, we never close it up, and because we want to have as much oxygen as we can in there. So unlike wine or beer, when you're fermenting those, we actually want to have lots of oxygen in this so that it breathes. So that's basically how we're going to do it. We've got SCOBY in there. As this cools down, as this starts to ferment, probably about a week or 2 weeks, what you're going to see is you're going to see that silicate growing across. You're going to see all of that SCOBY sort of float and start to get little bits and pieces on it, which is good. And in about 3 weeks time you'll see us on another video harvesting, blending, all that stuff. So where we want to put this though is in a cupboard higher up, somewhere where it's going to be nice and warm. We want to be able to see this meter up here, and if you see it's about 28 degrees, okay, and you see the color changes. 28 degrees, 27 degrees is perfect temperature for this, okay? It's not always going to be that hot, but that is ideally sort of anywhere between 26 to 27 degrees. In the wintertime we would actually plug in a small little heat pad that you can get from a brewing shop, or $6 or $7 from warehouse. You can get a little single heat blanket for your bed, put that underneath and stick it in your cupboard and just let it sit. So yeah, in the next video we'll be showing you at the brewery how to harvest, blend up, we'll do some more testing, and yeah, that's how you brew a kombucha. Look forward to the next video.